In our last section, we are going to review the equations of circles. And we have gone over this in chapter 11, but this is our equation for a circle. We have our center is h comma k, and r is our radius. So if we move down and look at the first example, it says to write an equation for each circle described. Our center is -5, -3, and our radius is 23. Square root of 23. So when I plug this into my equation, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, I get x minus a -5 plus y minus a -3 is equal to the square root of 23 squared. Now I can simplify this. I know that a minus a negative is really a plus. Same with my y term. I have y plus 3. And when I have a square root and squared, those are inverse operations. So that gets rid of the square root and squared, and I'm left with 23. So that is my answer to the first question. For the second one, I'm given my center, but this time I'm given a diameter. So when I plug into this equation here, I know that x minus 3, my h is 3, plus y minus a -2. But I need to find my radius. So remember, our diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. So if I know my diameter is 10, I can find r by dividing by 2. If I divide my diameter into 2, I get my radius is equal to 5. So that means I have 5 squared. And I can rewrite this, x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2, should be a squared up here, is equal to 25. Okay, let's move to the next one. Write an equation for each circle described. The center is at the origin, so remember the origin means it is 0, 0, and our radius is 11. So if we have x minus 0, y minus 0 equal to 11 squared, x minus 0 is just x, so that leaves us with x squared plus y squared equals 121. Our next example asks us to graph. So we have the equation. We need to figure out our center and our radius. So our center is going to be our h comma k. Our h is 4, so there's supposed to be an x minus h. And then it's supposed to be y minus k. So since it's plus 1, that must mean k is a -1. And then we know that r squared is equal to 9. If we want to figure out our radius, we need to take the square root, both those sides. Our r is equal to 3. So now we can graph. If we make this a little bit bigger, so we can see the graph, we have 4, -1. 1, 2, 3, 4, -1 right here. That is our center. For my radius of 3, I'm going to go 3 in all directions. So I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. That means all these points here are on the edge of my circle because my radius goes from the center to the edge of my circle. So then I'm ready to connect my points and I have a circle. Pretty close to a circle, if I could draw one. Our next example says graph x squared plus y squared minus 25 equals 0. So the first thing I'm going to do for this equation is to get the x and the y terms by themselves on one side and get my other constants to the other. I have to get it in the correct form first. So to do that, I want to move the 25 to the other side. So if I add 25 to both sides of my equation, I get x squared plus y squared equals 25. Now it's in a form that I can graph. So since I have x squared plus y squared, I know my h and my k are both 0. So that means my center point is 0, 0. And then I know my r squared equals 25. So if I take the square root of both sides, I get r is equal to 5. So if I graph this, I have 0, 0 in the middle, and then I'm going to go in all 5 away in all directions. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, 5 down, 5 left, and 5 right. So these are going to be the edges of my circle because I know my radius goes from the center to the edge of my circle, and then I can connect all of my points. Okay, so my next one says I have a circle with a center at 5, 4. So if I graph that, go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 4, and has a radius with endpoints -3, 4. So I'm going to graph that point. 1, 2, 3, and up 4. So that means this right here is my radius. I can count how many units in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that means my r is equal to 8. I've got my center and my radius. I can plug in to my equation. X minus, this is my h and my k, is equal to 8 squared. And if I rewrite this, I know 8 squared is equal to 64. This is my final answer. Okay, next question. This says I have a circle with a diameter of 14. And it has a center in the third quadrant. So this is my first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. The lines y equal 5. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be this line right here. And x equals 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. These two lines are tangent to my circle. Remember, tangent means it touches my circle at one point only. So it's going to look like, this is my point. It's going to look like this on my circle. That is what tangent means. And then it says to write my equation of the circle. So if my diameter is 14, remember that means that my radius is going to be half of that. The diameter is the whole circle, the radius is half my circle. So if I take that 14 divided by 2, that means my radius is equal to 7. So if I look back up here at my drawing where I do an example of a tangent, these two lines on my graph are going to look something like this. I want my circle to touch those lines only in one place. So if I look at my radius here of my circle, I want to go 7 away from this line and 7 down from this point. This is how I'm going to find my center. So this is 7 and this is 7. So if I look right here, I'm going to start by counting over 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I want to go down 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that gives me a point right here where I have a 7 radius here, a 7 radius here. This would give me my circle. But I don't need to draw my circle. All I'm looking for is an equation. So now I found my center point. That point is, let's see, negative 1, 2, 3, and down 2. Okay, so then I have my H and my K. I can plug in my information. Got negative 3 and negative 2 is equal to 7 squared. So simplify x, that's really a plus 3, y plus 2, and that equals 49. That is my equation of the circle. Didn't mean to cross that off here. Okay, our last example. A circle with a diameter of 10. So if the diameter equals 10, right away that tells me my radius is going to be half of 10, which is 5. Has a center in the first quadrant. So first quadrant, it's going to be in here. The lines y equals negative 3. So y, we would go down 3, 1, 2, 3, right here. And x is negative 1. Notice how, as I read this, I label each piece as I read it. So I'm not trying to read the whole thing. I'm going piece by piece here. So my lines negative 3 and negative 1 are tangent to my circle, and it's going to be in the first quadrant. So again, if I draw a quick sketch here, these are my two tangent lines. Means my circle is only going to touch in one place on each line. Let's try to draw a circle again. So it's going to touch here and here. So if my radius is 5, that means I'm going to go up 5 and over 5 here to get to my center. So if I start at this line, go up 5 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to go over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gives me a center point right here. And that center point, we can look, it is over 4 up 2. So I get my h and my k. So I have x minus 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 5 squared. And I can rewrite that again. 5 squared is equal to 25. That's my last example.